You're listening to A Smart Stack with Maria LaChapelle. This is episode 8 of Dear Mrs. White Lady. Theodore's at my kitchen window again, and neighbors are complaining. Damn girl, he's not my rooster. Add some calcium or magnesium to that feed. Dear Mrs. White Lady, nothing I think so outrages a neighbor than being awoken by a rooster. We don't have a farm. We've never had a farm. We don't have a rooster or a roost, but we have Theodore. When the conclave of northern cardinals and pine warblers came through in spring and were eating seed from my garden beds, I put out flaxseed so they would eat that instead. It worked fine. The arugula and lettuces grew undisturbed. The cilantro prospered. The radish took root. Everybody was happy. I had deer and fawn bed down in the cuttings at dusk, nibble at dry fronds of ferns. They seemed to peaceably rest. I had Penelope, my 2-year-old red fox, bring her 3 kits out to show me, so gray and tiny you wouldn't notice them. I put out a field cam to watch them when I wasn't able to myself. I set out orange peels, and everybody was happy. I did have a run-in with a rabbit. I thought them delicate, but they're really undercover mixed martial arts assassins, and I wouldn't mess with them. I hardly feel bad now about that rabbit confit we languished over in my beloved old Quebec on honeymoon. But why, Mrs. White Lady, do we behave with the carelessness of dolphins, pushing up on people? Perhaps it is a laziness of intellect to call us unreasonable or petty. More to the point, we have a penchant for peevishness. We are killers of spontaneity. We elevate buzzkill to an art form. And then there's the ecological harm caused by the white lady's beeswax problem. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it is true that we white ladies have suffered for decades from the acute malady of not having enough of our own beeswax in our lotters of our own homes. Whether this is an evolutionary change or more systemic, I cannot say. What is certain is that because of this deficiency, we've taken to minding the beeswax of others, especially black ladies and black gentlemen, I'm afraid. It is a pervasive problem in the wild, but within captivity, in gated communities and HOAs, its excesses are insidious, exacerbated perhaps by the effects of climate change and the price of eggs. What is wrong with us? It seems we would frighten the glimmers out of a field of stars and be happy to do it. The incident at the farmer's market. I'll set the scene. Excuse me. A lovely group of black ladies after Sunday church taking brunch at the farmer's market. Video. They are dressed smartly in modest attire and kitten heels. Having entered one of the many territorial spaces of the Southern White Lady, they come face to face with a queen bee white lady, one of the most deadly. Rabid, inebriated, taunting, aggressing, disrupting their conviviality, a thief to their sense of place. This upsets me deeply. Are we to believe this is really because someone moved a seat cushion? I've seen this sort of behavior before. Maybe the CVS checkout lady is minding 2 registers, an Amazon returns queue, and dealing with your sorry ass. Mrs. White Lady, are you really going to give her the eye roll and show her every ounce of disrespect you can muster? because she did not look you in the eyes and behold you as the very creature that you are. Guess what? She doesn't have the headspace for you. She's working 2 jobs, going to school, and taking care of Nona. Meanwhile, I'm in line behind you humming, "Gotta be starting something, you wanna be starting something. Lost in stealing, lying, you just gotta be starting something." Reminiscent of the unemployment check cashing scene in the Full Monty, I think I might have actually done a bit of a dip, shoulder roll, and dip again as you barreled off. I wish you Karen would. Do you know there exists a whole genre of Americana storytelling on YouTube known as I Wish a Karen Would? The genius behind I Wish a Karen Would is Indisputable's Dr. Rashad Ritchie. And when I say genre, I mean a complete, unabridged collection. He has analyzed hundreds of these creatures and their natural habitats with the discipline of Jacques Cousteau and the subtlety of a Jane Goodall. I note here for my usage exceptionalists, I am acutely aware that complete and unabridged are redundant, but in everyday parlance, and there it is again, we do tend to use redundant phrases like pairs of matching socks. Dear Mrs. White Lady, when you go to the Asian market, does anyone ask you if you're lost? Do they inquire as to why you're there? Do they ask to see your papers? When you pick up a jar of eel sauce, do they ask how you intend to use it? If you were approached by the medicinal healer, would you take kindly to his recommendations for pallor of the skin? Do they inquire as to how you would pay and which method you would use to clean prawns if you were allowed to buy those held in reserve for Mrs. VIP Asian Lady? Oh, and did you mistakenly believe your mere presence at the market entitles you to buy them? What was it like parking outside? Did you find people happy to greet you with your Trader Joe's plastic shopping tote? Were you discomfited in any way by the overbearing weight of their gaze? Or did you rightly understand yourself to be an interloper here and rein it back in? Oh, and you brought cash, right? Because you can't use Apple Pay or American Express to buy baby bok choy, lemongrass, and glass noodles. Theodore and Jamie. I seem to have gotten a bit off track as I do. I had spent the morning defrosting the freezer. If not for my music, I would have heard the rasp of Mrs. Doe's sideways jaw tearing the herbs from my kitchen garden. As though choreographed in silent film, my head was bowed to scrape the ice away. She seemingly had raised her neck up as I had lifted mine to leave the crystalline shards to melt in the sink. The loudest puffs of air come at me, reasoning that she would sooner give fight than give chase. I stepped back. She had won the confrontation and resumed eating my herbs. Lamb's ear and flowering blue sage seemed to be clear favorites, although creeping lemon thyme was a contender. If you've ever had a personal experience similar to Robert Frost's Two Look at Two, you may come to understand how special this moment was. A doe from round a spruce stood, as near the wall as they. She saw them in their field, and they in hers. The difficulty of seeing what stood still, like some up-ended boulder split in two, was in her clouded eyes. A snort did bid them wait. A buck from round the spruce stood, across the wall as near the wall as they. Two had seen two. a great wave from it going over them, as if the earth in one unlooked-for favor had made them certain earth returned their love. I posted Theodore's parades to the Washington Park Neighborhood Facebook page and its companion page, the Washington Park Water Cooler page. The latter was supposed to be a place where people sold items to each other or made notes about lost pets. The administrator of both pages had clear rules about what was to be posted on each page, but none of us quite understood the difference, so we ignored him as best we could and just posted wherever it was most convenient. We would frequently receive a curt note to repost it in the proper section. It was bedlam. Theodore had taken to Jamie, Jamie to Theodore. Jamie was happy. I most assuredly was so. And now, no one else was more happy than Theodore. By this time, the novelty of Theodore's performative parading about the neighborhood had worn off. Theodore's most afternoons would find comfort in the flax seat outside the kitchen window. He would peek around the pantry door to let me know he was back. It had not occurred to my husband to mention a rooster had followed him home and that I might take note of it. For him, it had just become a routine thing. Life in North Carolina was a far cry from Colorado. He had developed the fine art of taking things as they come. It was lovely. We asked each other, video below, what would he like to bed down on? We didn't know. We didn't have hay or straw. Would he need fresh water or a bath? A cistern of fresh water was nearby. Was flaxseed eating a sign of vitamin deficiency? Makes sense. Theodore stayed that night and roosted on the sill of my kitchen window. But when I got up to get a glass of water, he gazed at me with his head tucked, but not so much that he could not see his eyes. His only preoccupation seemed to be, kindly shut the light when you leave. Okay. And then morning came. Their troubles began in the morning. Well, I should say well before the morning. About 4 a.m., the alarm clock that Theodore had set in his heart began to count down. T minus 8 minutes. At 0408 hours, the cock-a-doodle-doo button had been switched on. I always thought roosters didn't do their thing until first light. I stayed in bed from 4:20 a.m. until 5:30 a.m. When I saw Theodore next, he was patrolling the back 48 behind the garden. I supposed he would find a similar route home. Far more distressing than a cock at dawn was my Mrs. White Lady neighbor of 18 years up in my business before a cup of English breakfast could be had. And this was how our quiet, happy lives unraveled. Neighbor, 5:30 a.m. Do you have a rooster? Because if you've got chickens, 5:30 a.m. Do you have a rooster? Neighbor, 5:34 a.m. Because if you got chickens, there's an ordinance against that. You have to have a permit. Neighbor, 5:38 a.m. Hey, we need our rest too. Calvin and I will not consent to you having a rooster. Maybe hens would be okay, but you still need a permit. Me, 5:58 a.m. Morning. We don't have any chickens or a rooster, but this one followed Jamie home. I'm sure his owner will be looking for him. He's handsome. a Wyandotte, I believe. I looked it up on the ABC feed store on Facebook. He slept on my windowsill last night. Do you know whose it is? Can you have them come get their rooster? Neighbor, 5:59 a.m. It's not my rooster. What? What the fuck? Me, 6:08 a.m. Yes, I mean, no, it's not your rooster. I wondered if you knew whose it was. He just stayed the night, not looking to keep a rooster or get chickens or anything like that. Neighbor, 6:12 a.m. You still need a permit. I'll call George first thing if you won't. Vic, there's no need to call the permit office. We're not keeping him. He's just lost. Day after day, I posted on Facebook to Radio Silence. Whose rooster is this? Have you lost your rooster? Perhaps this rooster might be yours. He's a sweetie. Are you missing an ermine lace-edged Wyandotte rooster? Please see videos to identify and reclaim your rooster. The White Lady Chat on Facebook. See the text below that led our neighborhood to descend into Lord of the Flies. Hey, WP, has anyone lost a rooster over by Freeman Street? Where it jags a bit before hitting Cascade? Rooster's nice looking Americana? Or maybe lace-edged Wyandotte? He's surely going to be missed by his owners. And maybe the ladies. Wink, wink. Cool. What's his name? Alex, that's not funny. Is he hot to trot? What do you mean he followed your husband Jamie home? Angela has hens. I'll check with her. She's not on Facebook. This page is not for lost pets. Please move Convo to the Washington Park water cooler page or it will be deleted. Rules attached. Please follow all rules attached. You signed the agree with all rules attached when you join the page. Well, before we move the Convo over, whose rooster is it? Who's missing the rooster? We don't know, Jess. That's what I'm trying to find out. He's just in my backyard by my kitchen door. No one will claim him. You know, you need to have a permit for that. Photo of Theodore. Vicky, we aren't planning on keeping him. We just want to get him back home. Hey, you still got your Meme's recipe for coca vin? Pete, that's sick. Angela must be down at the barn. She's not answering her landline. Sorry, guys. Why don't you just call animal control? You know, animal control is going to do nothing good with a rooster. Seriously, this has been going on for days. I had to fly out to Stuttgart tomorrow. I'm calling George at the permit office before I leave town. This has got to stop. Seriously. Alexis, as an admin here, I thought you'd be more professional. Wrong, Alex. Sorry, Alex. If you want to get a hold of George, good luck. His pickup is still parked outside of Swain's. I'll call his wife, Kathy. She works there, too. Who's going to tell Kathy where her husband's truck's been all night? Might not want to pull the pin in that one. Jamie, can you guys cut Miss Maria some slack? She's been out to 4 farms since Tuesday. Nobody wants another rooster. Jamie, you need to chill, brother. I'm sorry, Pete. I didn't realize you were so super chill. Every time you lose a dart, you don't buy the next round. Judith says, I have to get to work. I'll check in later, Maria. You've got to stay on top of this. We can't just have people having roosters or hens or guinea fowl without a permit. We don't have an HOA. but we operate like one, and you knew that when you moved in. Jamie says, Judith, my wife has lived here for 22 years, long before you. Logan, Maria, hit me up on DMs. I have a few ideas that don't involve a cast iron pat or animal control. Thanks, Logan. Admin, I don't know why I bothered. Hey, guys, I think I see what is going on here, and we all want to see Maria through this. I mean, it is her problem to solve, but we don't have to be that guy. I respond, I don't even know how to respond to that. And so it goes. A word about George and Kathy. The permit office is run by an elected councilman who owns the mahogany-stained doors at the crack of 10 a.m. every Thursday. Calling first thing amuses me. He owns the quasi-illegal drive-through liquor store at the far end of town. And as in many corrupt southern towns, every municipal commission seems to come with a his and hers matching set. George and Kathy manage the permit office as a sort of family business, if you catch my grift. The morning is peppered by more cockle-doodle-doing. After each round of vocalizations, 3 to 4 seems to be the pattern. White Lady Beeswax continues to vex me. Shaking my head, I head out to check the tomatoes in my rudimentary greenhouse. Yeah, I don't have a permit for that either, but I had convinced George and Kathy over rhubarb pie that it's not a permanent structure. By this point in the morning, I'm thinking, it's time Theodore and I had a talk. You kind of got me in a spot here, guy. I wait, expecting some sort of explanation or a plan. I mean, he's not an imbecile. He's just a rooster. I ask gingerly, is there anything going on at home? Theodore tucks his red pea combs under a wing, revealing milky eyes. I get it now. But damn it if I don't have to go down to the clerk's office on Thursday for that damn permit. The end of a friendship. For nearly 20 years, my pups would find their way back to her back door and drink out of her dog's water bowl. I'd get a text saying they were in her kitchen again. Would I call them back? When we had a good bit of snowfall, we'd meet at the top of the hill to go sledding. No one had sleds. My hot chocolate had a little Bailey's, hers a cut of Irish whiskey. When he had esophageal cancer, I made potato and leek soup. We left groceries for each other during COVID, and the time I was fighting an immobilizing grief at the loss of my brother, she washed my hair in the kitchen sink. I took up the recycling bins from the curb, texted them before the tree surgeon was coming to fell a tree. They'd shovel our sidewalk when they did their own. But just like that, it was done. And the sad thing is, it had nothing to do with politics. It had nothing to do with anything other than a bunch of white ladies not having enough of their own damn beeswax to mind. God bless the child who's got his own. Indeed, Miss Holliday, indeed. And looking back, I wonder, would it not be quaint to remember a time when 2 older white ladies wouldn't talk to each other because a rooster once came for a visit and overstayed his welcome? Talk soon. M. P.S. I lost my Jamie 2.5 years ago to illness. He was awesome. You've been listening to episode 8 of Dear Mrs. White Lady on a Smart Stack with Maria LaChapelle.